Hello everybody, in this episode we start gluing, we make a few cock-ups and I attempt to make these videos slightly shorter. So let's get going. Okay, so firstly I'd like to apologise for this god-awful lighting I've got going on. I got back to Basingstoke very late tonight and I'm lacking the natural light from my window behind me. So I've got this spotlight on me at the moment. It is bloody bright, really bright. So I apologise for that. I haven't been on holiday. I'm not tanned whatsoever. It's just very good / bad lighting. Look at that, there's me trying to make these videos shorter and I've already gone off on a tangent. So this week I was in the workshop for 4 days altogether. Wasn't in on Monday because I had a steaming hangover from May Day, which in Oxford's quite a big thing apparently, so I ended up just staring at the ceiling for 4 hours on Monday. But Tuesday is when stuff started going down. So obviously last week I got everything machined up, planed on two sides, thickness on the opposite to their final dimensions, so it's all perfect. This week I could start looking at joining it all together. So before getting started on anything, I put a quick question on Instagram asking if dominoes or biscuits were the best option to join the top slats together. So the reason I was considering biscuits is because they're cheaper and we have a lot more of them at Rycotewood. I didn't want to start rinsing the domino stocks, but the general feedback I got was use dominoes. You've still got that side-to-side adjustment, or you can make the side-to-side adjustment if you need it, and they're obviously a lot stronger as well because they go further into the wood and it allows you to get a much larger gluing surface in there. So yeah, that was nice and easy. One thing I did make sure I did with it was, yeah, that makes sense, was put them at regular intervals along the length of the top, so that if I was wanting to drill a dog hole in, or a holdfast hole or something in the future, I would know whereabouts those dominoes were, because I don't want to be drilling through them. They're quite deep down in the top, but if I was to look down that hole for any reason, possibly, I don't know, I would see the domino obviously, so I don't want that to be a risk at all. So nice even spacing along the top, and then I know where they are when I go and do random drilling in there later on. Another thing I tried for the first time this week was cutting tenons on a table saw. It's amazing. It's so good. It makes everything so much easier. Now, we have weird laws in the UK apparently where you're not allowed to go over the top of a table saw if you have a machine that's better for doing it, or something weird like that. I can't remember. Now, we have a tenoner at Rycotewood, but it's written off at the moment. It's whacked, I think. Something's wrong with it, so we can't use it. So conveniently, I was able to use the table saw to cut the shoulders on the tenons. Now this is really weird because in videos that I watch in America, for example, they very rarely use crown guards over the top of the table saws, whereas when I use them, I'm used to having that sort of cover over the top of the blade. So when that's not there, or when it's a lot higher, it's quite scary, to be honest. Seeing the blade spinning, it's like, oh, I don't like the look of that. It's quite a shock, to be honest. So I was very vigilant on it for some reason. Like, it's exactly the same really, but I don't know, it was odd. One great thing about doing it on the table saw was the fact that I was able to cut the shoulders on the tenon and also cut the middle laminate to length using the same stop. And this eradicated a lot of the guesswork that I would be likely to do in the future if I wasn't able to use that stop block and I had to cut that middle laminate to length by eye or something like that. It means that the shoulders and that middle laminate are exactly the same length, which is what they need to be in order for that joint to close up properly and be flush on the bottom. One thing I did also do was start cutting the slots for the wedges on the wedge tenon. I thought I had it all sussed out when I made this joint by cutting 3mm away from the shoulder line, or 1/8 of an inch for you imperial people. So yeah, it worked really well on this. However, when I did it on the ash, it wasn't as bendy as I thought it'd be, so I actually ended up snapping one of them off, which was really annoying. Once it's wedged in the actual workbench itself, you're never going to see it, and you'll probably never know, and it will almost be as strong, to be honest, but it's just the thought that there's a split in there that's going to annoy me for the rest of my life, I think. The rest of my life. Another thing that I started playing around with this week was sound. Now, one thing that was pointed out to me when I was doing the Krenov cabinet in my last project was when I was doing dovetailing, I was filming it on my GoPro with a wide angle lens. And that GoPro was resting on a tripod on my workbench, which meant that all the sounds of the tools hitting the bench were resonating through that up into the tripod and being captured by the microphone on the GoPro, and it sounded really cool. So I've tried to mimic that this week by using the is it XY? I can't remember, by using the microphones on the top of here, just by placing this on boards or next to the piece that I'm working on, and try and pick up some of those sounds and vibrations that are being passed through it as I work on it. So when I was doing this planing, I was actually aiming to put a small hollow in each of the laminates so that when I glue them together, there's no risk of the middle part contacting before the edges. I want the edges to contact first, so it's a nice tight joint from the outside, and maybe a tiny hollow on the inside. Never to be seen again, but it's just so that the edges close up nicely. And what I really like about this is it adds a new sort of dynamic to the video that's lacking almost beforehand. It makes it a lot more inclusive, and yeah, it just feels like you're actually there. Now, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work this into the video, being able to record the video and the sound, or high quality sound at the same time, because working that camera on manual, as well as getting this placed nearby to pick up the sound but not loud enough, it's a lot of setup just for the simplest of shots. So I'm probably not going to do it on every shot, but I'm going to do it on the ones that I think matter and will pick up quite a nice sound. So what else did I do this week? Oh yeah, ripped my drawings in half. That was incredibly annoying. They were trapped under a bit of wood. I just thought, I'm just, being a bloke, I don't want to move anything, just pull it out as hard as you can. Ripped them clean in half, so that was annoying. Oh well. And something else I did, yeah, I ripped a leg off my tripod. You know when you get something new, and you're always really careful about it. Like, I remember getting my laptop and sort of being really careful putting it onto my bed even. With my tripod when I first got it, slowly extending the legs, clip them in place, slowly put the camera down. Now I'm just like, like ripping them out, and I actually ripped a leg clean off, which spent parts everywhere, and it took me about, I think I was fiddling with it for about an hour and a half trying to get it together. Watched one YouTube video and did it in 5 minutes. Oh yeah, also another small cock up I did was, remember in the last video I mentioned that I was moving the dog strip back one layer so that it was in line or in the same strip as the through tenons? Well, what I was doing is I was gluing the back layers for the through tenons on the back part, so there's no dog holes in there. But then what I thought is, oh, they're all dry now, I'll start gluing the front ones on. So I glued it on and forgot that I was meant to be drilling dog holes in it first before gluing it on. Like, that side is about 50 kilos, so there is not a chance I'm getting that under a drill press, so I've got to try and find some other way of doing it. I think I've sussed it out, and actually I'll explain that now. So, to drill the dog holes, I've read a lot of articles. Chris Schwarz, obviously I've mentioned him enough in this so far, he uses a spiral upcut router cutter, 3/4 inch or 19mm. And that's just plunged into the top as far as you can go, finish off with the auger bit. Now, we can't get these in the UK. Well, you can get it from Lee Valley, which will cost you absolutely tons in delivery charges, and also a 2 to 4 week wait. Now, I can't afford to wait that long, because if it is in those higher portions of waiting times, oh, it's late. If it is in that sort of 4 week period, that's kind of really pushing up to the deadline, so I don't want to have that sort of risk. So the way I've chosen to attack these dog holes, or to drill them out, is start with a Forstner bit, get as far down, or maybe about 2 inches, I reckon, 2 inches into the top, get that hole started. So I'm going to get a fish wave cutter, really nice clean cut, really accurate. That will get the first portion all sorted. From there I have to do a bit of experimentation. I've ordered a Wood Owl auger bit from TF Tools, 3/4 inch, and it's pretty massive. They're used for timber framing. Now, if that bored hole from the Forstner bit gives me enough depth to properly locate that auger bit and keep it nice and plumb, then I can just use that as the guide and then continue that all the way through to the bottom using the auger bit. If the auger bit goes in there and it's a little bit wobbly still, I obviously still need to keep this nice and vertical. So the way I've chosen to do this is, obviously you can't use an auger bit on a drill press, because the screw thread on the end is either going to rip the chuck off the drill press, or it's going to rip the wood up from the table, or if you've got it clamped down. I really don't know what will happen. Maybe it will just end the world, I'm not really sure. However, what I can do is get a 6mm pen drill. So now these pen drills are about this sort of length, so that will go through the whole top. I can use that in a pillar drill, get that nice vertical hole, and using the spur point left over by the Forstner bit, I can locate that pen drill back into that hole and continue the hole all the way through. So essentially I've got a 3/4 inch hole going that far down, and then the rest of the way through I've got a 6mm hole that the pen drill has done. Now what it means is when I put that auger bit into the hole and start boring it, there is nothing for that screw thread to engage because the pilot hole has cleared all the wood from that area. The reason I haven't put a pilot all the way through and then just straight onto the auger bit without the use of the Forstner bit hole is because what I'm worried about is the auger bit, the spurs on the outside of it, engaging first and kind of like chattering almost as they hit the wood. I don't know if auger bits need that screw point in the middle first to locate it and then the points to start cutting afterwards. Obviously a Forstner bit gets located in the middle, starts doing the outside. So that's the reason for the Forstner bit hole. It allows that auger bit to go in there, get located, and then it can start cutting away at the excess of it without rattling side to side and possibly making the hole out of plumb. So yeah, like I say, that's pretty much it for this week. I want to keep these nice and short so that you can get the information that I want to give you without boring you. And also if you have any suggestions, you can get them straight back to me. If any of you have a better solution for drilling those dog holes, obviously without the use of a spiral upcut router cutter, unless anyone in the US wants to send me one for free within the week. But yeah, any better solutions, or if you have ever used an auger bit in a drill press, let me know how it went. Did it rip your arm off? I don't really know what to expect. But give me suggestions anyway. Thank you for all of your comments so far in the series. They're really helping, and it's given me a lot of stuff to think about and a lot of stuff, well, it's saved me a lot of potential cock-ups as well. So thank you for all your support throughout this series. Yeah, see you in the next episode.